Welcome, comrades, to the Art of Cinema. I am Colonel T, Minister of Propaganda, and joining me once again is our glorious leader, General Secretary F, who is the incarnation of the appearance a leader should have.
I find your words of tribute to be adequate, Colonel. I convey magnanimous, benevolent greetings to PRF nationals in the North and to our comrades overseas who render acceptable sacrifice to the jingoistic cause of the revolution, to the wherewithal, the ascendancy, and ultimately the devastating victory of the F nation. I hereby utter frenzied words of recognition to our foreign comrades who render due support to the rightful cause of the party. Comrades, the magnificent history of the People's Republic of F is a history that proves the incontestable truth that the military menace and ideological supremacy of a nation obtain only when the nation grovels before its glorious leader.
Yes, sir. We submit in fear to your wise extremism. Let us turn the whole world into an atrocitarian paradise by modeling it on the People's Republic of F, the epicenter of the revolution. And to that end, today on the Art of Cinema, we reveal that Gone Girl is ranked at number 9 on our list of the top 10 films of the 2010s.
Very well, Colonel. Yeah, I haven't seen Gone Girl, just like I haven't seen any of the other films that we've discussed on this program, even though I'm one of its hosts and it's my job to review movies here on The Art of Cinema. I've just been really busy engineering the progress of society. So let's watch Gone Girl, and I'll explain how this movie should be interpreted by devout revolutionaries.
Yes, sir. Ben Affleck lives in small-town Missouri. He owns and runs a bar there with his sister, Carrie Coon. But Ben Affleck arrives home to find that his wife, Rosamund Pike, has vanished.
Well, look at the size of the house where Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike live. In the PRF, we'd house like 15 or 20 families in a domicile that large. Perhaps Rosamund Pike has vanished so that she can go report gross misappropriation of living space to the relevant authorities.
Ben Affleck calls the police and a detective, Kim Dickens, arrives to begin investigating the vanishing of Ben Affleck's wife, Rosamund Pike. But, oh no, Detective Kim Dickens arrives at Ben Affleck's home to find that not only has Ben Affleck's wife Rosamund Pike vanished, but there is a crime scene at the home of Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. A coffee table has been overturned and its glass top has been shattered, evidence of a struggle, and there are trace amounts of blood spatter in the kitchen.
You know, as I watch Ben Affleck, I see that he needs to be integrated into a socio-economic class uprising whose goal is the overthrow of the bourgeois supremacy and the appropriation of his political power. But clearly Ben Affleck does not possess sufficient class consciousness to join himself to such an uprising. He's too affable. He's too live and let live. Ben Affleck will need to be guided by an atrocitarian vanguard party to establish the dictatorship of the proletariat with the support of the working class. Only in this way will Ben Affleck be able to implement the revolution.
So, Detective Kim Dickens takes Ben Affleck to the police station to interview him. It seems that Ben Affleck doesn't know very much about his wife, Rosamund Pike. Ben Affleck doesn't know who Rosamund Pike's friends are. Ben Affleck doesn't know what Rosamund Pike does all day while he's at work. And Ben Affleck doesn't even know what Rosamund Pike's blood type is, even though Rosamund Pike is Ben Affleck's wife. There's something very suspicious about Ben Affleck, sir. Does Ben Affleck even care that Rosamund Pike, his wife, has vanished? How can Ben Affleck seem so indifferent about it all?
You know, that's easy. Ben Affleck's thinking is still conditioned by the false consciousness with which the American capitalist imperialists have indoctrinated him. This is a man who's perfectly comfortable to see the bourgeoisie lounge with their fine wines while the proletariat toil in existential privation, Colonel.
I see.
So why would he care that Rosamund Pike has vanished? And anyway, this is why I have so many wives, because I don't know any of my wives' blood types, but I've got enough of them that one of them has to be a donor.
Right, at least one wife of every blood type, right, sir? Rosamund Pike's parents fly in from New York City, and they hold a press conference with Ben Affleck to try to get the public to help them find out what's caused the vanishing of Ben Affleck's wife, Rosamund Pike. But Ben Affleck has very little to say at the press conference, sir. He doesn't even seem all that worried, whereas Rosamund Pike's parents give an impassioned plea to the citizens of Missouri, that the citizens of Missouri help find Rosamund Pike and deliver her back safe and sound to her husband, Ben Affleck.
let me be frank. Ben Affleck must be made aware that American society enforces social relations that prevent him from being aware of class inequity. Only the conscious can seize the means of production. But in order for Ben Affleck to be able to decodify his socioeconomic circumstances, Ben Affleck's awareness of class inequity will have to be awakened by conscious experts, by the atrocitarian revolutionaries of the People's Republic of F, in other words.
Detective Kim Dickens has a deputy, Patrick Fugit.
Patrick Fugit, sure. When Patrick Fugit was younger, he played Cameron Crowe in Almost Famous, where he traveled around with a fictional band based on the Allman Brothers. Billy Crudup's character in that movie is a knockoff of Dickie Betts, one of the Allman Brothers' two lead guitarists. And I wish Dickie Betts was in Gone Girl.
That would be awesome, sir.
Yeah, Greg Allman was in that movie Rush, where he played a mob boss. But I digress, Colonel. We're talking about Patrick Fugit.
That's right. Patrick Fugit suspects that Ben Affleck is likely to blame for the vanishing of his wife, Rosamund Pike. Rosamund Pike's parents organize a sort of town hall gathering to get the citizens of Missouri to scour the local countryside in search of Rosamund Pike. But at the town hall gathering, Ben Affleck seems to be socializing with the locals and even flirting with the local women. Since the home of Ben Affleck and his wife, Rosamund Pike, is now a crime scene, Ben Affleck stays at the home of his twin sister Carrie Coon while the investigation proceeds. But after Carrie Coon goes to bed, guess who shows up, sir?
Is it Sandra Bullock from Gravity?
No, sir, not Sandra Bullock.
Is it Robert Duvall, the other guy who's in Swingers?
No, Robert Duvall, in fact, does not show up late at night at the home of Carrie Coon, Ben Affleck's twin sister. Instead, it's Emily Ratajkowski, a very young woman Ben Affleck has been having an affair with. So Ben Affleck and Emily Ratajkowski sleep together, and then Emily Ratajkowski leaves early in the morning, but not before Carrie Coon wakes up and finds out that Ben Affleck has been cheating on Rosamund Pike with Emily Ratajkowski.
Getting that dick wet.
Ben Affleck holds a vigil for Rosamund Pike with her parents. He tells the crowd that he loves Rosamund Pike, that they're soulmates, and he assures the crowd that despite what some might be thinking, he had nothing to do with Rosamund Pike's vanishing. But is Ben Affleck really sincere, sir? Suddenly, Ben Affleck's neighbor shouts at him from the crowd. The neighbor demands to know what Ben Affleck has done to Rosamund Pike, his pregnant wife. Ben Affleck's neighbor demands to know why Ben Affleck has not revealed to the citizens of Missouri that his wife Rosamund Pike was 6 weeks pregnant. What else is Ben Affleck hiding?
It's not that he's hiding anything, Colonel. The problem is Ben Affleck's false consciousness. Material conditions determine Ben Affleck's consciousness. So, like I said, conscious experts will need to re-educate Ben Affleck, drawing back the veil to reveal capitalist imperialist inequity to him. Then, Ben Affleck will be able to redirect the course of American society, which will in turn redirect Ben Affleck, who will then be empowered to produce an equitable society founded on atrocity. But who's going to empower Ben Affleck to implement these structures of freedom and justice?
It's all starting to turn against Ben Affleck, sir. Rosamund Pike's parents suspect that he's killed their daughter. Ben Affleck's own twin sister, Carrie Coon, has started to have her doubts. Perhaps Ben Affleck did in fact kill Rosamund Pike because he just wanted to have an affair with Emily Ratajkowski, and his pregnant wife, Rosamund Pike, was only going to interfere with those plans. Women who host cable news shows suspect that Ben Affleck has killed Rosamund Pike, so public opinion turns against Ben Affleck. And the evidence the police have uncovered all points to Ben Affleck as a self-centered, uncaring husband who killed his wife, Rosamund Pike, so he could cash in her life insurance policy, pay off his considerable credit card debt, and keep on having affairs with Emily Ratajkowski and other attractive young women who are citizens of Missouri. Detective Kim Dickens intends to arrest Ben Affleck, sir. She's only trying to find Rosamund Pike's body first, because it will be hard to prosecute Ben Affleck for murder while they don't yet have Rosamund Pike's body.
But being suspected of the murder of his wife, Rosamund Pike, isn't Ben Affleck's only problem, Colonel. And I'd say it's not even his biggest problem. Let's not change the subject here. You see, in the United States, private property functions as a dialectical dynamic that indoctrinates both oppressor and oppressed with a falsely conscious ideology that enforces the status quo in American society. Capitalist imperialist ideology gives rise to a power structure that grants private property as a right for the bourgeoisie, but only as a privilege for the proletariat. Someone must overturn the American culture of silence by introducing a counter-hegemonic view of class structure. But Ben Affleck is clearly not that someone. I ask again, who's going to emancipate Ben Affleck by deposing the U.S. government and transferring the power to a dictatorship of the proletariat?
Who indeed? But suddenly, Gone Girl executes a plot twist, sir. It reveals that Rosamund Pike is in fact alive and well. hiding out in the Ozarks in rural Missouri, and that she has faked her own vanishing as part of a conspiracy to get Ben Affleck sent to the electric chair for her murder.
In the PRF, we've developed a solar-powered electric chair. We're talking about environmental justice.
Right. Only we could put all mankind in the electric chair. We learn that Rosamund Pike is an evil genius. When Rosamund Pike caught her husband, Ben Affleck, cheating on her with Emily Ratajkowski, Rosamund Pike began carefully orchestrating her vanishing, planting all the evidence to frame Ben Affleck for her supposed murder. Rosamund Pike even faked the medical tests indicating she was pregnant. We learn that Rosamund Pike is a sinister, vengeful woman who has destroyed the lives of other men using similar tactics before she met Ben Affleck. For instance, when one of her former boyfriends stopped calling Rosamund Pike for a while, after he began to find his relationship with her to be suffocating, Rosamund Pike physically injured herself in ways that amounted to evidence of a violent sexual assault. Rosamund Pike's former boyfriend's life is ruined. He can't get work, and he can't form new relationships with women now that he's a registered sex offender. All that just because he made Rosamund Pike mad, sir.
Huh. So it's not just Ben Affleck. Is Gone Girl teaching us that both Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike must be awakened by class-conscious revolutionaries and made aware that American society enforces social relations that prevent them both from acquiring awareness of societal inequity?
Rosamund Pike goes to stay with another former boyfriend of hers while she's in hiding, waiting for Ben Affleck to get arrested and convicted of her murder. Want to guess who the former boyfriend Rosamund Pike goes to stay with is, sir?
Is it Fred Savage from The Wonder Years?
No, sir. In fact, it's Neil Patrick Harris from Doogie Howser, M.D.
Oh, I was close. Using my powers of revolutionary prophecy, I could tell that it was a child TV star from the late 80s and early 90s. And as the people are well aware, Colonel, I've used those same powers of prophecy to foresee the decline and fall of capitalism, and the transition of formerly capitalist imperialist nations to an enlightened utopian politics of atrocity.
So Rosamund Pike goes to stay with Neil Patrick Harris. Neil Patrick Harris is a very rich man, and he lets Rosamund Pike live in his lake house. It's the perfect place for Rosamund Pike to hide out while she's waiting for Ben Affleck to get sent to the electric chair for murdering her. But there's a problem with Rosamund Pike's plan here, sir. Neil Patrick Harris turns out to be a sociopath just like her. In fact, it appears he learned it from Rosamund Pike when they dated 20 years earlier. Neil Patrick Harris is extremely controlling. Neil Patrick Harris makes Rosamund Pike dress up for him and obey him. Essentially, Neil Patrick Harris is a manipulative narcissist who intends to make Rosamund Pike his sexual servant. So Rosamund Pike will have to pretend to submit to Neil Patrick Harris for now while she's hiding out in his lake house. She's going to have to play this situation very carefully. But since Rosamund Pike is a manipulative sociopath as well, she's up to the task.
Do you remember when Neil Patrick Harris was in How I Met Your Mother, and then they had him marrying Robin?
Sure.
Yeah, I never bought that as a plot. But it was a great show. But I couldn't really relate to him,
Yeah, right.
But these guys, I can relate to these characters. Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris. A lot of unenlightened people are going to look down on them. But in fact, manipulative sociopaths are the demographic that glorious leaders such as myself are drawn from. Haha, yes. I still remember my days as a young, inexperienced, manipulative sociopath. Back before the revolution, back before I deduced the breakthroughs of political science that you'll find in the General Secretary F Manifesto, I was not unlike Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris.
But Ben Affleck figures out what Rosamund Pike's plan is and sees that he has a play here, sir. Ben Affleck sees a way to counter-manipulate Rosamund Pike, as it were, and get himself out of the dangerous situation she's put him in. Ben Affleck goes on a talk show hosted by Selah Ward. It's a dangerous move because public opinion is against Ben Affleck, especially amongst women. Everyone thinks that Ben Affleck killed Rosamund Pike, his wife. But when Ben Affleck goes on the show, he confesses to having failed as a husband. He publicly admits his affair, and in a spirit of contrition, Ben Affleck asks Rosamund Pike to come back home, promising that he'll be the husband she wants him to be.
You know what this reminds me of?
The Revolution?
Yeah.
Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris watch Ben Affleck's appearance on the Selah Ward talk show, and Rosamund Pike is impressed. Ben Affleck's performance wins her over, and Rosamund Pike changes her mind about wanting to see Ben Affleck sent to the electric chair for murdering her. She has successfully manipulated him. Ben Affleck has capitulated, and in capitulating and publicly repenting, in begging her to come back on live television, he's sated Rosamund Pike's anger. He's fallen back in line and is once again behaving in in a manner that Rosamund Pike deems to be acceptable. But now Rosamund Pike is in a fix of her own. She's stuck with Neil Patrick Harris, who treats her as though she's his property.
Such a familiar story. Neil Patrick Harris has denied Rosamund Pike access to the fruits of her own labor, in a manner not unlike what the capitalist imperialist bourgeoisie have done to the proletariat. Is there an eternal General Secretary on hand to emancipate Rosamund Pike from this situation?
I don't think so, sir. It's just Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris there at his lake house.
But without a wise and respected Supreme Commander, how will Rosamund Pike hasten final victory? By what means will she implement a revolutionary ideological offensive to liberate herself?
Well, Rosamund Pike injures herself with a bottle of wine to fake evidence of a violent sexual assault, and in a brutal climactic scene, pun intended, Rosamund Pike goes to bed with Neil Patrick Harris and slits his throat at the moment of culmination. Neil Patrick Harris gets offed as he gets off, sir.
Wow, that's brutal. You know, the Germans have a word for that. Die andere Mensch, die in Svingersauftauk.
Covered in Neil Patrick Harris's blood, Rosamund Pike drives back home to Ben Affleck and collapses into his arms as the TV news films the whole fraudulent scene.
Oh, I'm impressed, Colonel T. Rosamund Pike has emancipated herself from the Neil Patrick Harris situation. I'm starting to think that Rosamund Pike might have it in her to be America's glorious leader.
Ben Affleck has managed to get out of going to the electric chair for murdering Rosamund Pike. But it's out of the frying pan into the fire for Ben Affleck, sir. He wants to divorce Rosamund Pike, who has shown herself to be a calculating, murderous psychopath. But Rosamund Pike gets herself pregnant with Ben Affleck's sperm from a fertility clinic they had visited before all this, and Ben Affleck knows that if he doesn't stay with Rosamund Pike, she'll ruin him. He's found out what's going to happen if he makes her mad. So Ben Affleck is trapped. Ben Affleck's twin sister Carrie Coon breaks down in tears as she realizes that he intends to stay with Rosamund Pike and raise the child with her. She tells him he's breaking her heart. But Ben Affleck tells Carrie Coon, I have a responsibility. It's not about what I want anymore. Ben Affleck and his twin sister Carrie Coon try to persuade Detective Kim Dickens to keep investigating the Rosamund Pike case. Ben Affleck tells Detective Kim Dickens that Rosamund Pike confessed to him that she straight up murdered Neil Patrick Harris and faked the evidence that Neil Patrick Harris assaulted her. Rosamund Pike must have made a mistake, thinks Ben Affleck. There must be a way to prove that she's a murderer. But Detective Kim Dickens tells Ben Affleck that Rosamund Pike has covered her tracks too well. Detective Kim Dickens can't keep investigating her. Rosamund Pike has spun her fake story to the press and gotten a book deal and a movie out of it. She set up a franchise deal on the bar that she owns with Ben Affleck. So the two of them are rich and famous now, but all of it, their marriage included, is an elaborate lie to which Ben Affleck must submit under threat of having his life destroyed by Rosamund Pike. In a sense, sir, Gone Girl is a horror movie in which the monster is matrimony. Ben Affleck asks Rosamund Pike, why would you even want this? Yes, I loved you, but all we did was resent each other and try to control each other and cause each other pain. But Rosamund Pike tells Ben Affleck, that's marriage.
Sure, that's marriage. And it serves as an apt metaphor for the relationship between the citizens of the PRF and myself, their glorious leader, General Secretary F. I'd imagine that when the counter-revolutionaries I'm constantly having to purge from our society talk about me, they'd also say that we've resented each other and tried to control each other, but that's the price we pay for the progress of the revolution. Watching Rosamund Pike fake her vanishing to frame Ben Affleck for her murder, only to then come back to him with a new way to control and stage manage their marriage. It reminds me of the early days of the People's Republic of F. When I was young, I found my relationship with my countrymen unproductive and unfulfilling, much like what Rosamund Pike thought of her marriage to Ben Affleck in its early years. So I left my country to study political ideology, eventually arriving at the revolutionary advances in political science that constitute the General Secretary F Manifesto. Then I returned to my homeland, organized and rallied the PRF Liberation Army, and implemented my immaculate, flawless ideology with the iron fist for which I have become justly famous. It's not often been pretty to see the revolution in process. Just like the marriage of Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike might not look pretty at times, the sacrifices must be made in the midst of our arduous struggle. But once we've arrived at the utopia that I alone hold the keys to, even our enemies and detractors will see that it was all worth it. The unenlightened might be terrified as they watch Gone Girl and see Ben Affleck consigned to a life of dutiful service as Rosamund Pike's husband, but that's only because they don't have the foresight, the genius that Rosamund Pike has. I, on the other hand, can appreciate her hard work here because I possess that same genius. We can only hope that Rosamund Pike goes into American politics and does for her country what she's done for her marriage. If you ever get there, Rosamund Pike, if you manage to bring the revolution to America, you'll find an ally here in the People's Republic of F and in me, its glorious leader, General Secretary F.
So, Gone Girl is number 9 on our list of the top 10 movies of the 2010s. This has been The Art of Cinema with our glorious leader, General Secretary F. Let us maintain vigilance against the ever-looming threat of an American invasion. You are required to report any non-participation or dissent amongst your comrades. Don't forget to tune into The Art of Cinema again next time to find out which film from the 2010s is ranked at number 8 in your next mandatory re-education session.